Is Billy home? Whoa, Mrs. Benner, are you trying to seduce me? Going. Hey, Billy, guess what?
Hello everyone, it's the home of the movie. Today I will explain to you this movie. Teenager Rick is stalked by his best friend's mother, but he has a crush on a beautiful girl and plans to win her heart by any means necessary. It comes to a point where he bets on her, and things get ugly. At the beginning of the movie, we open up in a room where a boy named Rick is feeling pressured and contemplating the mess he has made over the past few days. He narrates about it and then hears a sound coming from the other room, where his mom Lucy is lying unconscious on the sofa. Rick's mom Lucy had attempted to end it all, concerned about herself. And this isn't her first attempt, by the way. We find out about this when Rick calls for an ambulance, and they are familiar with his mom. Then Rick learns about the recent letters written by his mother, in which she reveals that she found out about her best friend Miss Bender and Rick's affair, and maybe that's why Lucy attempted to end her life. Then Rick takes us on a flashback to where it all began. In the first place, Rick's mom Lucy is an alcoholic and doesn't pay any attention to her children. She constantly talks about getting divorced from Rick's dad, but it hasn't happened yet. Rick has a sister named Kristen who works in a strip club. Then we see Rick's dad, Joseph, and he also has nothing to do with their children. We also learn that Rick has a crush on a girl in his class named Na, but he has never spoken to her. Then Rick goes to meet Jimmy, the owner of the nightclub where Rick's sister Kristen works. Jimmy tells Rick to call one of his dancers, that Rick goes to that dancer's residence. However, she does not want to go to the nightclub, so she starts seducing Rick. And Rick happily accepts her offer as it is his first ever experience. Then he goes straight to his friend's house, Billy. There we also see Billy's mom, Miss Bender. Then Miss Bender sends Billy out to get some stuff, and when Rick is alone in the house, she starts getting close to him, and this is where their affair begins. Tomorrow at school, Billy and Rick are talking about impressing Na. Carlos comes there and he places a bet with Rick that if he can make Na his girlfriend, he will give him $1,000. But if Rick fails to make Na his girlfriend, he has to pay him $1,000. Now hearing this, Rick also agrees to it, but later he realizes that Carlos is the son of a gangster, and if he can't pay the bet money, he might even get killed. After this, Rick sees Lola in the bathroom. She is actually an imaginary friend of Rick. Here, Lola encourages Rick that he can impress Na and make her his girlfriend. Then Rick finds out that Na has broken up with her boyfriend Kevin, and knowing this, he starts feeling confident that he can make Na his girlfriend. When their teacher is teaching them in the classroom, he suddenly dies, which leads to the students being allowed to leave. On his way out of school, Rick talks to Na and asks her to accompany him to the funeral of the teacher. Then Kevin Herc suggests up and starts bullying Rick. At that moment, Na says yes to accompany Rick to the funeral of the teacher. In the face of Kevin. The next day he is at the teacher's funeral, and those people were sitting in Rick's mother's car. Just then, Na tells Rick that she enjoys Josh Grin's music. On hearing this, to impress Na, Rick tells her that he knows Josh Grin personally, and he is also going to his concert tomorrow. Na gets very excited hearing this, and she asks him if she can come with him to see the concert together. During this pretentious conversation, someone hits them from behind, and on the way out, Rick learns that he is the father of the person who hit them. Father then apologizes, to which Rick tells him to get his car repaired now because Rick has promised to take Na to the concert. So he goes to Jimmy, the strip club manager, and asks him to get tickets for the concert for him. Jimmy agrees to help him, but before that, Jimmy gives Rick the task of getting the stuff from his supplier. Then Rick goes to get the stuff, and he keeps some of it for himself. Because Rick wanted a car to go to the concert, he asked for Miss Bender's car, and Miss Bender agrees to give him the car after some cleanup, of course. The next day, when Rick goes to pick up the car, Miss Bender asks him to take Billy, her son, along with him. Then Rick and Billy go to Jimmy to get the tickets to the concert, but they find out that Jimmy has ditched them and didn't get them the tickets for the concert. Then both of them are stressed and thinking where Na shows up. There, Billy notices Rick's dad's car in front of the same hotel, and on getting close to the window, they hear Rick's dad and Billy's dad, with a woman inside, having some intense moves. Now, because Rick couldn't take Na to the concert, he apologizes and Na also forgives him. Then tomorrow, when they go to school, a new teacher comes to teach them, and she also dies while teaching. Afterward, when Rick comes home, he gets a call from the car mechanic who was repairing his mom's car. The mechanic tells Rick that it will take another week to repair his car, so he lets Rick drive a very expensive car for a while. Rick is very happy about the car and has a lot of fun with Billy and Na. But that night, he is caught by the police, In fact, the police had caught Rick because they had found the dead body of the mechanic in Rick's mother's car, and since Rick was driving the mechanic's car, the police felt that Rick had murdered the mechanic. Then Rick is interrogated, and he tells the police that he went to that mechanic to get the car repaired at the behest of the church father. In the meantime, a lawyer comes there who is sent by the father of the church to help Rick, and at his behest, Rick puts all the blame on his dad. And then the police let him go. While Rick was going to drop the lawyer home, the lawyer takes Rick's stuff that Jimmy told him to get him days before, and after getting drunk, she starts getting close to Rick. But because Rick is loyal, he drops the lawyer at her place and leaves. Upon arriving home, he finds that his sister, Kristen, has invited several of her nightclub's friends to the house. Seeing this, Rick gets an idea of taking advantage of the opportunity, and he tells Billy that they need to open a strip club for the night, which will earn them the money to offer to Carlos. Rick is thinking that he will still lose the bet on getting Na as his girlfriend, so he better be prepared by doing this. Then Rick tells all this to Kristen and everyone else, and they all agree to it. Billy also calls his mother Miss Bender, but the thing is that Rick is not happy about it at all. He's tired of her because she always chases him around. Then Billy goes out while Miss Bender tries to forcefully make love with Rick, but Rick is trying to avoid her. After some time, Billy comes inside and he notices his mother doing things with his friend Rick. Rick tells Billy to take his mom to another room. After this, Rick invites Jimmy to the party so that he can handle Billy's mom. After the party starts, Billy and Rick start earning good money. After a while, Jimmy comes there and Rick sends him to Miss Bender to get to work. After this, Na also comes there because she was concerned about Rick and the police case. Rick takes her to his room where they both warm up by talking and getting close, but that's when Miss Bender comes in. At the same time, the owner of the nightclub shows up in anger because his girls know that Rick is using them to earn money. Here, Nina comes to realize that Rick is having an affair with Miss Bender, which makes her angry, and she starts leaving from there. Seeing her leave, Rick tries to convince her, but then Na learns one more thing, that Rick has bet Carlos to impress her, which makes her even more angry. Meanwhile, the police arrive because Rick had opened the nightclub in the community without permission. Here, the police arrest everyone except Rick, and with all of them, Na is also arrested because of the accident of hitting the police officer's face when she tried to hit Rick. All of this makes Rick feel very bad. The next day, Rick goes to the police station to meet everyone, where he learns that Na has also fallen in love with him, but now after all these incidents, she doesn't even want to see his face. When he comes home, Rick receives a call from his dad saying that he has gotten into a lot of trouble because Rick had given his name at the police station. So everything that was happening in the movie so far was a flashback, and now we will see the next story as Rick is now in trouble from all around him. He goes to the church to confess, and once there, he tells the father about the lousy scumbags and confesses. Approximately the affair with Miss Bender, and humorous enough, the father starts fighting him because he was also having an affair with Miss Bender. And he has got craps because the end result. After all this, Rick goes to Miss Bender and makes her stop their affair. Then Rick goes to the hospital to see his mom. While he's speaking to his mother notices that Rick is very upset. She tells Rick that he hasn't done something to be unfixable, and he has to start fixing all this mess and confess his errors. Hearing all this, Rick gets influenced, but Carlos catches him because Rick hasn't given him the bet money. But here, Carlos proceeds to bite Rick's palms, and seeing this, Rick gets very fearful. But Carlos laughs and tells Rick that he was just joking. Then Rick goes to the attorney and calls him that he needs her help to get his friend out of jail. Now, because Rick did not have the cash to bail his friend, the attorney hires him on a part-time job. The attorney then goes to the police station and gets Rick's friend released. After this, Rick goes back to the hospital to meet his mom, where we come to know that Na is doing a part-time job there. Rick goes to his mom and gives her divorce papers so that his mom can divorce his father. He also gives his sister the school papers so that she can go back as she was suspended because of the jail case. Rick, coming out of the hospital, meets Na. Firstly, Rick apologizes to her for everything, and then he tells her his heart. Na also started liking Rick, so she accepts his proposal, and then both kiss. The film ends here. It was a movie called Behaving Badly.